Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this episode of Talk About It with Marvin Lee. Well, we're just going to jump right in. I talk about a little bit of everything. I've been told that I talk all the time, so I figured why not create a podcast and call it Talk About It with Marvin Lee. And today, um, I, there are a few things that I want to talk about. Not a few things really. There was a friend of mine who's on Facebook. I came across an article that he had posted, and it's interesting because when I first read it, I'm not going to lie, I have my own biases. I've never claimed perfection, and I'm not going to start now. And this individual, this friend of mine has shared a post by an individual who basically conducted an experiment. It's a black gentleman, and basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen and just jump in. He's a black gentleman. You'll get the gist of it. I'm going to save some time. We're going to talk about this together. So let me share my screen. I'm going to read this entire thing, then we'll go from there. Give me just 1 second here. Okay, share. Okay, here we go. All right. Now, so my friend posted this article from I don't know if it's a friend of his or where he got it from, but anyways, I wasn't gonna read the whole thing, but I did, and I'm glad that I did. I did a quiet social experiment that opened my eyes even more than anything that I've ever written. I put on a MAGA hat for 7 days straight. This is a black gentleman for 7 days straight. Grocery stores, gas stations, Walmart parking lot, youth sports, a barbershop, a dinner table. I told nobody what I was doing. I kept a journal of every meaningful exchange. Number one, respect for even doing that. That's the first thing. And I'm assuming that this guy's in North Carolina because he's talking about I-40, and I'm just assuming that it's not that I-40 only is in North Carolina. It could be Tennessee. Heck, I don't know. But anyways, he says, I told nobody what I was doing. I kept a journal of every meaningful exchange. What I found on both sides shook me to my core. Let me start with the red side. The first thing that surprised me was the warmth. Not hollow, nodding warmth, but immediate. Chest open. You're one of us warmth. Interesting. Day one, a white man at a gas station off I-40, work boots, caked in drywall dust, pointed at the hat and said, "Hell yeah, don't let him break you, brother." He called me brother. I held on to that word all day and tried to figure out what it cost him and what it cost me. At my friend's son's game, two fathers in MAGA gear walked up, introduced themselves by first name, handed me a cold Gatorade from their cooler, and within 4 minutes, we're talking about Biden's inflation. That seems to be the only name that MAGA seems to know is Biden, but I'll talk about that soon too. Biden's inflation, the border, and how nobody talks straight anymore. They never asked my name again or that first handshake. I was categorized as safe, aligned, one of them. The hat was my passport. But as the week went on, the welcome got more complicated. By day 3, I noticed the acceptance came preloaded with assumptions that I hated the same people they hated, laughed at the same things, believed the same version of history. One man, educated, articulate, small business owner, told me over barbecue that blacks who get it, now this right here, blacks who get it are the most important people in the movement. I'm going to agree with him. Blacks who get it are the most important people in the movement because I get it. And I am important in this movement. And I'll talk about what it is that I get. I get the blatant racism. I get the blatant ignorance. I get the blatant white supremacy, the blatant I'm better than you, you're less than me mentality. I get all that. And I yet still choose to engage with certain individuals, but not all. I'm going to talk about this here in just a moment too. But anyways, so blacks who get it, blacks who get it are the most important people in the movement. He meant it as a compliment. I sat with it like a stone in my chest. And it's sad that somebody would even open their mouth. Blacks who get it are important in the movement and think that's a compliment. But anyways, in the barbershop, a man started telling me unprompted that January 6th was way overblown and that the real insurrection was the 2020 election. I'm curious to know if this is a black barbershop or a white barbershop he's in, because I can't imagine any black person saying that January 6th was way overblown. I'm just saying, I really can't understand that one, because had that been us rioting that day, we already know how that would have ended. But I digress. Where am I at? I keep losing my place. Okay, when I pushed back gently, so obviously it was a white barbershop. When I pushed back gently, just asking questions, his warmth cooled instantly, not rudely. The door just closed. The hat had opened it. The hat had opened it. My questions closed it. That told me everything about what the hat actually buys you. Entry, not belonging. Quite frankly, I wouldn't want to belong to that. That's just me. That's my truth. Then there's the other side. If the red side surprised me with its warmth, the blue side devastated me with its contempt. And what made it devastating was that most of it came from people who looked like me. And that shouldn't be devastating. Now, this is where I'm going to take a little bit of an issue with the poster, because that shouldn't be devastating. I mean, it should not be devastating, in my opinion. Same day as the gas station, I walked into a grocery store I've shopped in for years. A black woman, probably 65 to 70, beautiful silver locks, the kind of elder I was raised to respect. I looked at the hat and looked at me and shook her head slowly. Wait a minute, that made no sense. She looked at the hat and looked at me and shook her head slowly. Okay, got it. Not in anger, in grief, like she was mourning something. I nearly took the hat off right there in the produce section and explained everything. At the end of the day, you're committed to it. No need to explain what you're doing. That's hey, it is what it is. A deacon I know, a man who has prayed over my family, walked past me without speaking. He saw the hat. He kept walking. I called his name. He turned, nodded once, and kept going. We have greeted each other warmly for 4 years. The hat ended 4 years in 3 seconds. A young white woman in a coffee shop with a protest democracy sticker on her laptop stared at me for a full minute. Not subtly, she was running the algorithm of who I was supposed to be against, what I was wearing, and coming up error. Then she looked away with visible disgust. She didn't know me. She didn't ask. She decided. And I get where he's coming from, the instant automatic judgments and the being written off and everything. I get it. But in this America, in this iteration of America in which we live, nothing is shocking to me. Like, that doesn't shock me. That heck, I write people off real quick too. Call it a character flaw, call it whatever you want to. I call it disengaging with those that are complicit in the things. If you're a friend of my enemy, I'm just one of those people. I don't even want to engage with your enemy. The friend of my enemy is my friend, or enemy of my friend is my friend. No, I ain't got time for all that. I'm just going to be by myself and do my own thing. That's what I'm going to do. Anyways, black fathers that I have mentored kids alongside, men I respect deeply, were visibly cold. Warren pulled me aside and said quietly and directly, "What are you doing, man? You know what that hat means to our kids." He wasn't wrong. Not even a little. But he didn't ask me why either. Some things some people feel like don't need to be asked. And that assumption, even when it comes from love, from history, from real pain, is still an assumption. And in this instance, why couldn't you explain to those people that you were close to? You could have explained to him in that moment, because he asked you a question. You could have explained to him what you were doing, because he was engaging with you in that moment. I mean, so I take issue with that too. But again, that's your experience, not mine. He didn't ask me why either. And that assumption, even when it comes from love, from history, from real pain, is still an assumption. Here's what I've come to be honest about, or here's what I have to be honest about. His words. Their reaction was rooted in something real. The MAGA hat is not a neutral piece of clothing. It carries the weight of family separations, of very fine people on both sides, of voter suppression, of January 6th, of Project 2025, all things that, for me, some black people pretended like didn't exist. And let us not talk about the suppression of our the critical race theory and the great replacement theory, or it's just a lot. Like, I'm still mind blown. When people reacted with pain and distance and grief, they were reacting to history, not just to me. I understood every single one of them. What troubled me was the speed, the willingness on both sides to stop seeing a person the moment they saw a symbol. That is not a left problem or a right problem. That is an America problem. And I get where he's going with this. Some things you shouldn't even be surprised about in that moment, because there's for me, there's so much more at play here. Let's start with well, he's going to talk about this in a minute, but whatever. This was the week's most surprising discovery. A retired military officer, white, conservative, lifelong Republican, asked me almost immediately to take the hat off. I don't wear that, he said. That's still entitlement and supremacy on his part to tell a black person to take a hat off. Child, bye, whatever. I vote Republican because I believe in limited government and a strong military. Trump is neither of those things, really. He's a TV show. He voted for Trump twice, would likely do it again, but he had zero illusions about who the man was, and that's mind-blowing. And this is another reason I disconnect, because if you are that disillusioned, if you were that loyal to a party, that's like saying that the devil can come be the pastor of the church that I'm a member of when I believe the word of God always, but if the devil is the pastor of the church, if I'm loyal to this church, I don't care that the pastor is that the devil is. I lost my place. Okay, former Republican state party volunteer. Okay, he voted for Trump. I read that, and I can't vote for someone who's okay. And worried about projects when we do federal. Okay, let me just read this again. A former Republican state party volunteer told me over dinner that she was privately horrified by January 6th, thought the family separation policy went too far, and worried about what Project 2025 would do to federal institutions. Then she said, but I can't vote for someone who wants to raise my taxes and take my guns. This is a legislator who knows that nobody wants to take her guns. And nobody wants to raise her taxes. Tax everybody equally. I don't care if you say that people are creating jobs and they got the wealth, but child bye. That child bye. That's all I'm gonna say to that. But I can't vote for someone who wants to raise my taxes and take my guns, so I stay. She paused, and I hate to say, all right, and I hate that I stay, but I do. Sounds like a battered woman in a terrible, abusive relationship. And that's what I can't get. And that's why I choose to just move on, because this right here, you're complicit in all the craziness that is going on in the Republican Party. You are just as responsible as those that have hijacked the party. This is the piece the left often refuses to see. There is a significant portion of the Republican coalition that is not MAGA. No, we see it, but child, we see it. Maybe that's your opinion, but we see it. We just choose to act accordingly. Okay, there's the portion that doesn't worship Trump, that cringes at his cruelties, but calculates that their policy interests are better served by staying inside a broken house than building a new one. You can disagree with that calculation. I do, but dismissing those people as fascists means you never understand them and you never get a chance to reach them. Baby, they're content to be where they are. I don't want to try to understand you. If you're content to be in that craziness, I'm not trying to understand you. I know all that I need to know. That's my line of thinking. Now for the receipts, because feelings don't get the final word. Facts do. Donald Trump was found liable for sexual abuse by a federal jury in 2023. He was convicted of 34 felony counts of falsifying business records, the first U.S. president in history convicted of felony crimes. His administration separated over 5,500 children from their parents at the border. Hundreds were never reunited with their families. The January 6th Select Committee concluded he assembled the mob, and lit the flame of an attack that left 140 police officers injured. Project 2025, written by his own allies at the Heritage Foundation, proposes dismantling the Department of Education, eliminating DEI programs across the federal government, and replacing career civil service with political loyalists. His 2017 tax cuts sent 83% of the long-term benefits to the top 1% of earners. These are not opinions. These are not media inventions. These are documented, sourced, on the record facts. The receipts exist. Sunday night, I sat in my car in my driveway for 20 minutes before going inside. The hat was on the passenger seat. I looked at it a long time. I came back to my democratic values, but I came back changed, more honest about where my own side has failed the communities it claims to champion, more clear-eyed about the real complexity of the people across the line, and more committed than ever to what I know is true. The Democratic Party is not perfect, and I've always known that, but it's like having two parents. One parent is an alcoholic and irresponsible, and the other parent is imperfect, non-alcoholic, but is responsible. Neither one are perfect, but I'm going to trust the one that is that's being the adult in the relationship, and that's no different than what we have with this iteration of the Republican and Democratic parties that are leading America, and the Independent Party is the child that just doesn't know which parent to love. But whatever. Let me keep going. I came back to my democratic values. Okay, more clear out about the real complexity of the people across the party lines, and more committed than ever to what I know is true. The Democratic Party is not perfect. It has made promises to Black people and working class communities that it has not kept. I say that out loud and without apology, and I agree with that. But I also see a Republican Party that has been captured by a man with 34 felony convictions and a civil liability finding for sexual abuse. Let me park the car right there real quick. Has been captured by a man with 34 felony convictions. Typically, when you get captured, if you don't want to remain caught, you escape. And if you're still cohorting with the enemy and you're staying, you are there because you want to be there. So with that, I appreciate the experiment. But if you catch me and I don't want to be caught, I am going to escape. And if you're still a part of something that is as decrepit as the modern Republican Party, I'm sorry. Thank you for this experiment, but it leaves more questions than answers for me. But anyways, I see voter suppression. Okay, I'm sorry. Finding of for sexual abuse. A man whose allies have written a blueprint to reshape American government around personal power. I see your voter suppression dressed up as election integrity. I see my children's history being scrubbed from classrooms before they even get a chance to learn it. I see what these policies do to real people in real communities like the one I come from. So I am back with both eyes wide open. I went looking for the enemy. What I found was a country full of people making desperate calculations and a system that has failed too many of them for too long. The hat is in a box. The lesson is not. Thank you for that, but we could have told you that before you put yourself at risk for that. But I mean, hey, it is what it is. Again, I was molested when I was a child. A party that is okay with a cover-up. I do not care. Hear me when I say I don't care if you are Democrat. I do not care if you are Republican. What I care about is what is right and what is wrong. For me, this is not a right versus left issue. It is a versus wrong issue. Grown adults advantage of children and do the things that have been alleged to have done against children, according to the perpetrators and actors that are a part of the same file. A lot have to be the Republican Party. If those things are true, and we have a government, or if we have people who refuse to even acknowledge that there is a cover-up and do something about what the American people deserve to know and bring justice to these children, miss me with all that fakery. All these people that are staying in the broken home or the damaged house without building the next one, miss me with that dumb stuff, because at the end of the day, you can't be caught unless you want to be caught, or you can't remain captured unless you want to be caught. So again, for me, I appreciate the sentiment in that, but if I have somebody, if you want to come against me, even if you look like me, if you stand for that, I can respect the fact that you believe what you believe in, but don't look at me that we're in a situation and in a society where we're in desperate times and people are reacting and acting accordingly. We're living in the upside down. Like, I am sorry. What light hath, or what fellowship hath light with darkness? That is scripture. How can two walk together except they be agreed? That is scripture. I am not going to pass judgment on an individual. However, I will. Let me tell you something. I will cut you out of my life real quick. If we, again, how can two walk together except they be agreed? I'm sorry. That is just not how I'm going to get it down. I don't agree with all Democrats. I don't. And I don't disagree with all Republicans. However, I'm perplexed, baffled, and confused by a lot of actions of those on the right that identify with this iteration of the Republican Party. Again, I am not saying that all Republicans are racist. However, I am saying that the Republican Party is home to the racists, or those that call themselves racist. If you don't understand that, hey, no tea, no shade. That's your problem, not mine. So I can understand why he did what he did, but at the end of the day, it's like, People are just ignorant. I sell Medicare insurance. I mean, I'm a licensed insurance agent, and I happen to do Medicare. And I talk to so many different people, and I'm licensed in most of the southern states, with the exception of West Virginia. I do not have a license in West Virginia. I think that is the only southern state that I am not licensed in. And then in Midwestern, I'm not licensed in Oklahoma, but I am licensed in Texas. I'm licensed in Tennessee. I'm licensed in North South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, and Texas, if I didn't say Texas. So most of these states where there are poor people who depend on Social Security, because you have to have Social Security to get Medicare, and if you have original Medicare, you get in the, your Medicare Advantage plan. So I talk to people who vehemently support this clown in the White House, while at the same time complaining to me on the phone about not being able to afford certain things. And I wish I could get this, I wish I could get that, and have downright said things that if I could have gone through the phone, I would have smacked the shit out of somebody. Yeah, I said it. I would have smacked the shit out of them, the dog shit, okay? Because of the racist things that they said, and even the dumb things like, if I had somebody say to me, and apparently, I don't know how you don't know that I'm a black guy, because I don't sound anything other than black. But this guy said, if I painted my face black, I bet you I could get some benefits while being poor, while voting for the person that's cutting Social Security, cutting Medicare, cutting Medicaid, the very things that he depends on, that they call entitlements. Yeah, damn it, I'm entitled to it because I paid into it. I had a check the other day, and I was surprised at the amount of Medicare taxes that were taken out of my check. And you're telling me you're going to try to cut programs that we paid into, that when we get to retirement age, you want to tell me that this is an entitlement that I do not deserve, when clearly did you deserve to take my taxes out of my hard-earned checks as I would live this crazy life, and then you sit here telling me I don't deserve something I already paid for. But the point that I'm making is, hearing these people make the ignorant, dumb ass comments they make from a political, or think that they know what they're talking about politically, when they're cutting their noses off to spite their faces, and the very person that you're supporting doesn't give two flying flips about you at all. Like, it is mind-blowing to me. And again, for me, any black person that cozies up with the maggots, or can proudly call themselves black MAGA, like, that is an oxymoron in and of itself. Like, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. We're living in the upside down. Water ain't wet, and it's just up is down, down is up, east is west, west is east, north. Everything is confused. Cats having puppies having kittens. It's just, that's what it seems like. We are in the twilight zone. So again, I can respect that gentleman's experiment, but I'm not surprised. And I'm probably one of those people. I'm okay if you support a pedophile, whether they are a Democrat or whether you're a Republican, and you're okay with that. I'm okay with cutting you out of my life. I'm not passing judgment on you, but I'm just not holding space in my life for you. This has been another episode of Talk About It with Marvin Lee. I hope you enjoyed the talk. And if you want to join me, send me a message. Maybe there's something you want to talk about. I'll create a whole episode out of that. I love meeting new people, and I love talking. So, hey, let's get together. Let's talk about it. See you guys next week.